Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome to Friday Junior. It's another live edition of the Highbury Squad. One of our favourites joins us this evening. It's the Summer Series, Episode 4, with Mr. Tom Canton.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
It is indeed the Highbury Squad. Welcome to another live edition. Joining me this evening is one of my favourite football people and humans on this planet in general, Mr. Tom Canton from Gooner Talk TV. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to join yourself, as always. Shame it's not in person like last time, but yeah, it's good to see you again.
Funny you should say that. Look what I found today.
Look at that moonhead. Look at it. Incredible. Honestly, cameras.
There's one with you smiling. Me too. I hate it.
I'm the least photogenic person on the planet. Like,
I'll just take it. I hate it too. I absolutely hate having my picture taken.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Kind of watching a show back or even on TV or whatever. It's just like, just stop. I love talking about football, but all that other. When I worked with, and we'll get to the pop culture part, which I'm looking forward to with you, with a lot of actors, and when they were, I never watch my movies. I'm like, oh, shut up, you never watch your movies. But years later, not being a publicist and kind of doing a show, I could see exactly what they mean now. So. Good evening to everyone who is listening on replay. Many of you will be. And to everyone who is listening on the audio version, iTunes, Acast, and Spotify. Thank you so much. And how dare I be so rude? Good evening, squaddies. Everyone in chat, the usual suspects at ease. They're all here. And Tom, firstly, it's that season. It's that part of the season, not even the season, but a season where things are a little crazy for you. 8 a.m. starts, 6 p.m. ends, everything sandwiched in between. May I just say, I called you the Arsenal transfer show king, and yeah. I think it's well deserved.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want it. I'd love it in its crazy sense. It's to be honest, it's become part of a routine. So I don't really. It doesn't hurt to do it at all. I know people go, you're mad doing it at 8 a.m. I know Harry speaks to me all the time about how mad I am doing it at 8 a.m. But it's just is part of kind of who I am now. And I've always been a morning person anyway. I'm not really that tired in the mornings at all. It's always usually like nights that kill me, but mornings I'm pretty good. So yeah, the community at TGT, and you look at the chat box in the mornings, I create the live stream on StreamYard, as you know, whenever you create these. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I click create broadcast and I just go onto the YouTube to then sort out all the tags and stuff, there's people already jumping in saying morning. It's ridiculous. They're crazy. They're mad. Absolutely mad.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, look, you're the first place I listen to. So when you're going on air, it's kind of when I'm ending my day. It's midnight and I'm crawled up in bed with Vinny and Vesper and Tony, and I've got the laptop, before I watch one of my guilty pleasure television shows, which I need to add actually to the questions for the summer series, because my guilty pleasure TV is Below Deck Sailing Yacht, or Below Deck, any Below Deck.
I know already what mine is.
Okay, great. Yeah. Save that one to the end. So let's talk real quick about some news that's happened today and things that are going on before we get into some fun stuff with you. I was talking with Damien yesterday and asking Kevin as well. One of the biggest subjects on our show has always been, making sure that we build a squad and a team that makes this kid happy and keeps him happy and keeps him at the Arsenal and believing in the long-term vision and plan for what the club want to do. Once those little seeds of stories start to fester about Manchester City being interested or whatever it is, most of them probably not true, Tom, but you and I have seen this movie before, worn the T-shirt and drank out of the mug. Are you concerned at all that he hasn't signed his new contract and without qualifying for Champions League football, is there a red flag here that we should be concerned about?
Oh, I don't want to sit here and become a meme by saying there's absolutely no chance he's going anywhere, only to see him move on in a year or two's time. I honestly, my gut instinct tells me that he won't go anywhere, because the difference between him and Cesc and RVP and Nasri and these players is that they joined. They didn't come through. They aren't part of the fabric of North London like Saka is. So there is a difference there. It's not similar to, say, Sterling, at Liverpool, because again he came in from like QPR. So there is again a difference between that as an example, which sometimes gets thrown up, like people never thought Sterling would leave Liverpool and then City comes along and takes him. But I think there is a difference with Saka, that there's such an attachment with him and the club. I think you saw that in the Rocky thing that they did with the club as well. And I know that we talk about the PR and the powerhouse that PR is, but there's a difference, I think, with Saka, and I think he really gets it. So no, I don't think I'm not worried. Honestly, I'm not worried about his future. I'm not worried about him leaving Arsenal. Arsenal should be worried in their primary instinct should just to be worried so that they can act accordingly. But as a fan, I'm not. I'm not worried about it. I'm very hopeful that new deal gets signed. The club have said, and the feeling is from the club that they're confident that a new deal will be signed this summer. And that's actually alongside the likes of Gabriel Jesus and Tielemans, etc., that we're going for. His new contract is one of the main priorities for this summer. So I'm very hopeful for him to sign that.
Can you talk me through a little bit with regards to, I'm never good with numbers, and when I have a contract, I always get a friend of mine to read it for me, because I'd rather read Us Weekly than a contract, right? It's quite convoluted, and there's a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross. There's a trend building in football, and I think the Bosman ruling gave the players a lot of power. Some folks still think the clubs have the power. You get to that 2-year mark in your contract, Tom, and I think the power is definitely with the player. They can run that contract down if they want. They sign a new deal with either the club or they move on, and they're able to garner, a ton of wages. Or you put clauses in your contract that protect you, hence Jack Grealish, hence what Harry Kane didn't do, therefore missed out on his move to City. It's been a conversation that's been happening for a while. Is it because at 20 years old, do you think there's a haggle with what he wants to earn every week? Is it image rights? Is it the clause? Is it the sell-on? Is it Champions League? Is it the case of, not at his age, he'd want to run his contract down and do that to Arsenal? Can you explain a little bit to me at this point, when a player is at this pivotal moment in his career where he has all of the power versus the club, what you think might be going on?
I think what's difficult, especially, for us fans, is that we don't live in the footballing world. It's when you've lived in the world of football where everyone around you is on mega wages, everyone around you is earning these huge fees, that becomes the natural habitat, And so when we think about players asking for a pay rise from 50 grand a week to 100 grand a week, or 100 grand to 200 grand a week, contextually, it's relative to them. Whilst it seems mad to us, it is just the norm. And it seems mad, but it is. So if you're Saka and you see that you're putting in the top performances, week in, week out, and you're the player of the season, top scorer, and someone like Alexandre Lacazette was on £182,000 per week, and you're on 40, I think, right now, that obviously is going to have an impact. So to say that there's nothing to do with money with the contract, I think would be wrong. I definitely think that, there is a monetary process that will be part of that. And you have to also remember that the agent of Saka is the same as Nketiah and Balogun, who have got, and Nketiah looks to be getting a very good deal, 100 grand a week. And Balogun, without playing really too much senior football for Arsenal, I think is on something like £40,000 per week. So that agent's going to be getting Saka and telling Saka, look what these guys have got. You are levels above these. We're going to get you the absolute best deal possible. I think that there is an element of Champions League. There will be an element of wanting assurances, just like Van Persie did, all the way back then. I think there will be a wanting of assurances that, they are going to invest around him. They're going to put, the quality around him so that he's got an environment to win, because every top footballer wants to win and wants to be in an environment where they're given the tools to win. And that's just not, your wages or the manager, but also the players around you. So I think all of those factors, and it sounds always like a cop-out answer to say that it's a balance of all of them, but it is honestly a balance of, of all of these players, of all of these factors, sorry. So, yeah, I think money comes into it. I think ambition comes into it. If another club comes in and offers him, say City come in or Liverpool come in or Real Madrid or someone like that comes in and offers and says, we'll match you whatever Arsenal are doing. We can guarantee your playing time. And, we're going to be going for the biggest trophies. It's a very, very difficult thing to turn down. But like I said earlier, I think that Saka is very married to the idea of Arsenal, to turning Arsenal back into the powerhouse that it should be. And that's why I don't have the panic that I had with the Van Persies, Nasris and Fabregases of this world.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, that at 20 years old, he's just got his player of the season, second year in a row. I think Thierry Henry, Liam Brady, and might be missing one other player who's the only player to have done that. And the reliance on him, Tom, but he's relished it, hasn't he? He's really soaked up the pressure and the stress and put the team on his shoulders, to a point where maybe some of our senior players, when they weren't stepping up, there was always Saka. And he doesn't seem to shirk that responsibility. And you see it with England as well. I think he's got such a strong core in his life, I was saying on last night's show, and a backbone to his overall kind of being existence, that this to him is what he really feels like one of those players that believes that he was born to do this and does it with a lot of class, I think. And to lose him, or the reason why I worry is we have owners that model themselves on business dealings versus, affairs of the heart. And as a fan, I'm always I'm emotional. I look at it as affairs of the heart, right? I've seen the Kroenkes do things with their sports teams here or their executives here that, are questionable. You look at Liverpool and Coutinho, where they might, it's not the same thing at all. This is a player that wasn't part of Liverpool, didn't grow up in the Liverpool system, but rebuilt Liverpool Football Club with the sale of him. But then you look at Tottenham and how they blew the Gareth Bale money. Do you think that the owners get this particular player, that it is something completely different to anything else? That maybe the club in the past would have said, okay, let's sell him for 150, let's sell him for 120. We can rebuild and really challenge. Because I don't think they're like that.
No, neither do I. I think they see Saka as an absolutely integral cog in the machine that they want to take them back to the top again. I don't think there would be any fee realistic that could be offered for Saka. And if we are realistic, that you're talking £100 million bid to get him for that type of talent. I don't think Arsenal would accept it. I think Arsenal would, until say maybe the January window before his contract ran out, like they did with Alexis Sanchez. I think that's the only, and even though that was under Arsene Wenger, I still think that would probably be lend true to now. It would also obviously, I think, depend on how Saka handles the situation. If Saka outright turned around to them and said, I want to leave, I want to go, I'm not going to renew a contract. If I play, I'll play, obviously, because, I've got I don't want to ruin my relationship with the club, but I don't believe that the club are going in the right direction. I want to move on to a club that can offer that. I think maybe then they might, but I think they'll fight tooth and nail to absolutely keep him, and they will end up offering him a very, very good deal for a 20-year-old. I mean, I was always kind of on board of saying, look, I think that we need to be careful when we've got this young squad, because we've got a lot of young starters in the team. Our average age, as we know, is so young. And if you start giving contracts of around, the Premier League starters of a top 6 club to these guys, suddenly in 5 years' time, you're going to have a wage bill that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So we need to be as conservative as we can, and I don't think that Nketiah deal makes me feel any better about that at all, and the Balogun deal neither. But we need to be careful about how we offer contracts to players, about how we divvy out that money. There are players in this team that are on very good deals, and by very good I mean savvy money for the club. You know, Tierney's on a decent deal for what age he is and for what he's doing. Ben White will be on a decent deal. Tomiyasu is on a decent deal. Odegaard too. You know, these are players that are on 100 million sub, per week. I think Tierney's new deal took him to around the 100 million, maybe just slightly over. Smith Rowe's new deal, I think, took him up to 70, 80. Which again, you look at that as a 21-year-old, that's a lot of money. So when he's 24, when he ultimately probably gets a new extension, you're going to go up to 150, 120. What are you going to go to? So it's that managing of the wage bill that's going to be so tricky. But yeah, going back to your point with Saka, I think the club will do everything, and it will be very different to the others.
So I want to shift gears a little bit to this guy. You've mentioned him a couple of times. You and I have talked about him before on previous shows. Very generous deal. I said to you, I think I can't remember if it was on Dan's show or your show, where he and his agent have played an absolute blinder. Yeah, someone commented in the comment section on your YouTube channel to me, saying that they thought my comment was illogical about why are you saying that he's not a long-term option, but you think he's a short-term solution. And I truly believe that he's the type of player that comes and can do things in spurts versus over a long period of time, especially 38 games in the Premier League. It's official that Lacazette has left, and I think we all give him our blessing. He's always been so classy, never spoke ill of the club. He goes with our well wishes. But do you feel like this deal, does it worry you that they might be thinking Eddie is the starter and Balogun is the backup? Is Balogun going to go out on another loan deal? Do you see that happening? Do they feel like the focus is, there's so much talk right now of the midfield versus the striker position, Tom? What's your thoughts on Arteta's mindset? Because he fought tooth and nail to keep Eddie, which makes me believe that he thinks Eddie might be the guy.
Yeah, I think he does think he's the guy. I think they look at this and they go, we would have lost Nketiah for nothing, obviously, in the summer. And I think they look at it and go, if we renew his contract, we're getting a player that has shown in the last 8 starts that he can score, that he can put in performances that allow us to help defeat teams like Chelsea and Manchester United and West Ham away from home. And I think they look at that and they go, that's a good deal for us. If we can then add, a Gabriel Jesus on top of that and keep Nketiah. I think they see that as being a bit savvy, so that they can maybe go out and invest in other areas that they might not have before, either the wide forward or the versatile fullback position that we've seen linked so far this summer. So I think they look at it as what people might describe as penny pinching. And, you're not technically wrong in that, but I would think it's a bit overly harsh, because it could work out really well. Because if we do see Nketiah play like he did in those last 8 starts and get 5 goals, if he does that across a season, then you're looking at an Nketiah getting 15 to 20 Premier League goals, which, to sign someone on a free to do that is very impressive. But there's no guarantees, that, and that's the risk with this. There's also no guarantees that Nketiah plays those games, especially considering we're going for a player like Gabriel Jesus. Like, if you're signing a 50 million euro striker in Jesus and you're signing Nketiah, when are you going to give Nketiah 8 consecutive starts? I don't know when you're going to give him those starts. You might give him 8 consecutive Europa League games or 8 consecutive domestic cup and Europa League games, but Jesus is going to start those Premier League games. So you're going to get into that position again with Nketiah that he's not going to be given the regularity. He's going to have to try and come in at the end of games off the bench. He's going to get the odd start in cups and other games. And I said this on my channel. I was like, if I was Nketiah, I would have gone. I would have been out of there so fast, because no matter what Arsenal offer you this summer, Nketiah, he's going to be second fiddle or third fiddle this summer and next season. No matter what he's offered, he's going to be the second striker. He isn't going to be Arsenal's number 1. So for the benefit of his career and for the betterment of his future, he should have gone. And he hasn't officially signed yet, but, he should go, if we're speaking in the present tense. For him, he should really go. So I know what the club are doing. I understand their method. It's a risk. It could pay off. But as I said, it is a risk. And it's impossible for me to sit here, in June and say, oh, it's absolutely the right decision, because I can't do that. But I can reason why I think they're doing it and why they think it's the right decision. But there is obviously that really big risk associated with it.
Tom, what would you say if I said to you, my biggest fear is that Jesus could end up being like another Vlahovic situation.
Mhm.
And by the way, how to pronounce is on my agenda with you today because I've been getting
Oh,
it left,
no.
right, and center. Okay.
Yeah, so do I.
But what would you say if I said to you, there's rumblings about Real Madrid, Chelsea wanting to get involved. He's a hot commodity. How far will Arsenal go? Did they go far enough to get Vlahovic? Was it just a smokescreen? Was it, hey, we're showing you a little bit like Wenger, we're in for this player, that player, never bought any player? What would you say if I said to you, I fear that this will be another one of those scenarios? And perhaps it's a riff off the Eddie deal and maybe Balogun coming back
Mm.
and this youth project. And if we do get any more experienced players, it might be in the midfield area and maybe a cover at left back or right back or centre back. What's your take on that? Do you think I'm just living in fear because of
Mm.
history?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a completely fair criticism, a fair assumption, because we've been in discussions with Jesus' representatives for the best part of 6 months, or longer than
And
that.
and Tielemans as well. We'll
Yeah,
get to him, but
absolutely.
yeah, go on.
Yeah, and I think because we've been in talks and with their reps, and obviously it's taken this long, it's not like we could have pre-agreed this because Arsenal didn't know what competition they were going to be in next season. So that was always going to be the big factor in these deals. That would have been the difference between probably them signing a deal already, and being absolutely convinced that Arsenal's the right place for them. Where now, after the end of the season, we're in this period where Arsenal have got to convince them that they are still the right club despite not having Champions League football. That's why we're in this purgatory state right now, is because they are
Hmm.
having to try and convince these two players that Arsenal is still the right place, whilst other teams, I imagine like Spurs, who have been linked to Jesus, have got Champions League football, as have other teams, and have also made propositions. Chelsea may not have thought they were going to be in this Lukaku situation, and so they reportedly have got involved. I still think that it's part of, obviously, the obvious agents putting pressure on Arsenal by releasing information to different outlets to try and drive up other interest or drive up the idea of other interest. But you're right to think that there's similarities with the Vlahovic situation, because whilst we've seen links to Skamaka and Tammy Abraham and Victor Osimhen, I think that Arsenal, if they had 10 eggs in a basket, 9 of them are on Jesus, without a shadow of a doubt. Arguably, not all of them are on Jesus. They are desperate to get him and Tielemans. They are the outright priority signings. And if either one of them fails, it could delay our transfer business significantly. It might be that we don't start the season like last year with our business done. And that's poor planning, because they should have a plan A, plan B, plan C. They should have deadlines on plan A. If it's not done by this day, we can't afford to risk wasting any more time. We need to go to the next. And it might be that, because if the thing is that what happens is that your plan B and plan C go, before you've found out that plan A is not possible. So you need to set the deadlines. You can't get taken for a ride by agents and other clubs trying to drive up the price. You need to be, but I mean, let's be honest, transfers don't work like plan A, B, C. Plans are put into place, and plan A, B, and C are being discussed and negotiated simultaneously. And once one of those deals becomes in a situation, typically the plan A, where you find out you can do it, the other plans, you stop. You pull out negotiations and you just say, thank you very much, but we decide to go in a different direction. It's just the way that it happens. It's not we go from one to the other to the other. But the thing is that I think Arsenal are putting so much pressure on this Jesus deal that the Vlahovic similarities are obviously there. But I'm still very hopeful. If I was giving it a 10 out of 10 score for Jesus, I'd be sitting on an 8 that I think that Arsenal are going to sign him. I will leave myself the 2 because anything can happen, as we know, especially with Arsenal. But, it's got all the makings of a deal that Arsenal would feel confident, about doing. So hopefully it's a deal that we can see get done.
And he definitely feels, Kev has said on the show for a while, and we both in January wanted us to go after Tammy, and we felt like he would fit. And I've argued a lot that we've never really replaced Giroud and given ourselves that plan B, especially as Arteta in his early days, I would say in his first 18 months, wanted to play so much down that left channel, Tierney putting crosses into the box aerially where there's really no height or no one as good as Aubameyang was in his first, 2 years. And as good as Lacazette had been, they're not aerial threats. It's very different in terms of the set piece and Gabriel kind of emerging as a bit of a set piece king. I say king loosely. Tom Canton's the king, but I think you know where I'm coming from on that front. And so Kev's always said that he wants two strikers. He wants a Tammy and he wants a Jesus, and we'll get to the pronunciation. But I don't think we're in that game. Do you? I don't think we're in the Tammy game. I don't think we're in the aerial threat kind of player game. I don't know if
do you
we
not?
can afford
Because we're linked to a
Tammy.
lot of them. We're linked to a lot of them.
Okay, who? Tell me.
Well, Tammy is one. We were obviously linked with Darwin Nunez previously. Vlahovic we were linked to as well. Osimhen is a powerful, tall striker. I know he's not the archetypal target man, but he's certainly got, aerial presence about him. There were links to Patrick Schick. Unfortunately, he went away. I know I was obsessed with him quite some time.
Me too.
Yeah, gutted that we didn't end up getting someone like him. But yeah, I think there is something about Arteta wanting a powerful striker as well as a technical one. I think that's why we're linked to Gakpo as a wide forward, because he's, again, a powerful wide player. He's got that height. I think that's why we went for Tavares, another powerful player. Went for Partey. I think there's something that Arteta likes about power in his team and trying to get more power into his side. He wants the technical players like the Odegaards of this world, and of course Ben White and Gabriel who can play out from the back. But yeah, I think he appreciates having some presence. So, and those links and Dominic Calvert-Lewin's another one as well that we were supposedly linked with. I think there is a desire from Arteta to try and get something a little bit more, with more presence, with more aerial threat. So despite Jesus being the one, I think the reason why he's the one is because, Arteta knows him very well from his time at City. I think he thinks that he will fit into his team comfortably. He's versatile. He likes players that can play more than one role to cover when we inevitably get injuries. So I think that's why he's the number one. But all of those players that we've mentioned, Scamacca, Calvert-Lewin, Tammy, Osimhen, Schick, all
None
of them
are coming, are they?
I don't think we'll sign. The only one I think will get close to signing out of all of them is Scamacca, because the price is more reasonable. But then Italians don't tend to like leaving Italy. Despite coming through at PSV and going back on loan to the Netherlands,
I agree with that.
He might have more. I was speaking to Siavush Falah, who writes for Eurosport, about him, and he used the phrase, he's going to have to try and get over not having his mama's pasta every week. But he's done that before. He's done that previously, and when he went obviously to the Netherlands to try and break out in his career. So I think there's more of a chance with Scamacca than say there is others.
I just want to digress just a little bit and throw this in, because you were having a conversation about that target man. A lot of that comes from the Tierney play and down the left. Real quick, what do you think about Tomiyasu when fit, for example? Let's get rid of this little fella, whoever that is in the Robbie Newman's
uncle. All the time. It's mad, isn't it?
I know, it's crazy. What's your thoughts on Tomiyasu's play? Because we talk about how great he is as that when he comes in to protect Ben White or Gabriel, the physicality that he has. Modern football is all about wing backs bombing forward as well. Do you think that he complements that left side? Is there enough of that on the right side? Is there something you see that when he plays he might not be doing that could, rationalize maybe some decisions in the summer in terms of, how Arteta wants to play? Is he going to want to play like a 4? Is he want to play a 3? How do you see that where Tommy's concerned?
I think when you look at Tommy, Tommy is the perfect example of a player that shows the difference between Arsenal and Manchester City and Liverpool. Manchester City and Liverpool can afford to have two absolute bombers as their right and left back that just get up and down the wing, contribute to the attack, and not to think too much about it, because they dominate the game. They dominate possession most of the time. Arsenal, whilst have plenty of possession, are vulnerable. And we know that Arsenal are vulnerable as a team because they've got mistakes in them. They don't have the world-class players throughout the side that keeps their domination. And also they have a reputation of being at times weak and giving other oppositions the chance to, when you're lining up against Arsenal in the tunnel these days, you're not intimidated in the same way that you was 20 odd years ago. So because of that, and, teams that go up against City and Liverpool are intimidated by them. They sit back, they accept they're not going to have much of the ball. But against Arsenal, teams are more emboldened by previous results that have gone their way against Arsenal. So Tomiyasu, what he does is he brings balance to Arsenal's attack. If we can probably afford most times to have one fullback being ultra offensive, and we need that player because we need that extra attacker in the final third to help create things. And Tomiyasu provides that balance that we don't have if we have Cedric and Tavares. And that's why I think our season fell apart last year in the main, is because both Tomiyasu and Tierney weren't available for so long. Tavares and Cedric is not a balanced fullback option for us. And that's why Arteta fell into the trap of using Xhaka at left back against Brighton. It probably wasn't, if he was going to put Xhaka at left back, I might have been able to accept it if he hadn't have put Lokonga as a lone number 6. But because we didn't have Thomas Partey available either, it was a nightmare scenario. Like, you can't drop Xhaka in there if you haven't got Thomas Partey available. If you've only got Lokonga, it's a suicide mission, and it ended up being that against Brighton. But I'm not surprised he did that, because he's basically built this fullback system off the idea of balance. When Tomiyasu wasn't available, he coached Tierney to play more of a reserved role so Cedric could be that more offensive styled fullback. So when they both were missing, and obviously without Partey there, he fell into the trap with Xhaka against Brighton, and ultimately we couldn't react to it. And I always pinpoint the reason why we didn't get fourth because of those injuries to those three key players in Partey, Tomiyasu, and Tierney. With those three, we get 3 more points. I have no doubt in my mind that we don't get the extra 3 points. But that's why Tomiyasu, I think, is so key, is that we talk about specifically the style of players that Arteta wants, and he has the perfect fullback in Tomiyasu for what he wants from his game. I also think he has the perfect kind of fullback options, weirdly, in Ben White and Saliba, who have also played right back. If Tierney's available, I don't mind those two deputising over Tomiyasu if he's not available, rather than, say, a Cedric, so Tierney can still be as attacking on the left-hand side. I'd much rather see White or Saliba play right back over Cedric if Tierney is available. If he's not, you can make more of an argument for it for balance, or you bring someone on the left-hand side to balance things up. But I think that right back hybrid role it works. And it was one of the big reasons why we were so pushing for top 4 last season.
Yeah. I agree. And I agree with you, Tom. I think when you take Tierney, Partey and Tomiyasu out of the team, that's massive. So massive. And in the end, look at the margins by, how we lost, and then look at the games that we lost and why we lost them. And, it's a kind of a heartbreaker in the end. You've asked for Vinny. I'll bring Vinny out. Hit the like button, kiss the like button, caress it, nut it, butt it, as Super Kev would say. If you are not happy with the summer series so far, I don't know what to say to you. You had Demian play the pan drum last night. You've got Mr. Super Tom Canton here, the Arsenal transfer show king, bringing you shows on the Gooner Talk TV at 8 a.m. And then he's got his 6 p.m. show as well. It's just top shelf stuff. You mentioned something here, and I wanted to show you a couple of these because people love to do this, especially when it comes to us. So I pulled these, you got the Talk Sport kind of team. You can barely see it. You've got Abraham up front. You've got Jesus. You've got Odegaard. You've got Saka. But the most interesting thing about this, you got Xhaka and Tielemans. Right. Same thing with this one. Okay. I think this was another TalkSport 11.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get to the midfield here, and then Sports Diaz as well. Look at, got Partey here. But a lot of these teams that people are putting together are sans Thomas Partey, and very much in the corner of Xhaka.
Yeah.
Tom, talk me through. I think we missed this guy hugely.
Yeah.
And I know this guy had a decent season. There's no doubt about it. Talk me through the midfield situation and how you see that shaping up next year, and what your thoughts are when people are putting together their 11. It's Xhaka and someone versus Partey and someone.
Look, I think that for next season, 11s are kind of redundant, or they should be, because if Arsenal want to be up there with City, like if you were to do a City 11, it's tough because Pep rotates so often, and rightly so. And that's the position that we need to get into, is that, we've got, I hate the word backup. When people talk about transfers, I really don't like using the word backup. I don't think Arsenal should be signing backups. Arsenal should be signing competitors for positions. We need 2 good players in every position. Matt Turner, as you know, is good enough, in my opinion, from what I've now seen from doing the research, to start games for Arsenal in the Premier League. I have no doubt about that. We're bringing in a goalkeeper that can compete with Ramsdale. We're not signing anyone at right back, because I think we've got a really exciting young kid in Brook Norton-Cuff who's got the potential to compete with Tomiyasu in the future. Saliba's coming back, could easily be a competitor with Ben White and Gabriel. We're being linked with Hickey, of course, who's very good, but even better than that, we're being linked with Zinchenko, who I like loads, who could happily compete with Tierney and Xhaka in the midfield. He plays brilliantly for Ukraine in midfield. And I think that the idea that maybe that Partey isn't in their 11 is because obviously we're signing Tielemans, it seems, fingers crossed, touch wood, and that Xhaka is such a favourite of Arteta's, that a lot of people probably feel he's undroppable for Arsenal. And Tielemans, to be fair, has played on the right for Leicester for the majority of this season. So that's one of the big reasons probably why he plays there. What I like about Tielemans is that he's of a style that means he actually becomes a bit of an Ødegaard competitor as well. He can offer you so much going forwards that we don't necessarily have to worry about Ødegaard when he has an injury. Because before, the default setting would have been if Ødegaard's not there, Smith Rowe goes to 10. And then Smith Rowe's playing a different role to Ødegaard. Because Ødegaard's made that right central midfield. Because it's not a 10 role that he's playing. It's a right-sided number 8 position that Ødegaard's playing. And so because if Smith Rowe's in that 10, you're committing a lot more going forwards. You don't have as much going backwards. You don't have much transition from one end of the pitch to the other that Ødegaard brings you. You don't have the incisiveness that Ødegaard can bring at times. He's not perfect, and sometimes he does go missing in games, which isn't wildly surprising for a 23-year-old in the Premier League, but I think he's getting more consistent and better. And when he doesn't play well, Arsenal don't tend to play well either, which shows you how important that he is. So I think that Tielemans actually is looking as a player that will go on to either playing with Ødegaard in games that we need to be a little bit more expressive. So those games against Burnley at home, away to Forest, away to Fulham, these teams that sometimes that we might struggle to score against at home or away, we can play Tielemans and Ødegaard together. Partey would sit as the number 6 in those types of games because he can be as expressive and progressive as possible. And then in the games against probably the top half of the table teams, we probably have to make a decision between Ødegaard and Tielemans, probably whoever's on fire at that time. And we go with Xhaka and Partey and one of Tielemans or Ødegaard in that more offensive number 8 position. So I think the reason why you're not seeing Partey pop up is because it's actually a good sign. It means that people are struggling to pick Arsenal's first 11, which is always going to be a really good thing and a good problem for us to have. And it means that we're moving in the right direction. We don't want it to be easy to pick the 11. We want it to be a case where it's difficult to do that. And hopefully this season's summer allows us to do that next season more difficultly.
Yeah, very interesting take. I want to get to this guy as well, because he's almost become a polarizing figure before he's even, kicked many balls for the Arsenal. And, thank you, Gunner Balls, for your art. Thank you, Ruth Beck, for all of your wonderful art that you've thankfully given to the show tonight for us to utilize.
I've got some of her art, actually.
Yeah, she's absolutely phenomenal. She sent me these new pieces today, the tube station. She's redone the tube station from the outside as well. And if you look at the bottom of the screen on the ticker tape, we have a lifetime deal with Ruth to get 20% off. Just use Highbury Squad as the code, and you get to enjoy this wonderful art that she has created. Her passion being an Islingtonian and her love for the Arsenal. It's so good. So good.
You see, like when you put that picture up, it's the brickwork. Like you look at the brickwork. That's the talent.
Amazing,
when you see
isn't
that,
it?
it's unreal. Yeah.
And the detail in it all is just wonderful. So thank you, Ruth, as always, for being so generous with your wonderful work. And Jason as well, who gave me this good stuff to use for Saliba. Let's talk about the fact that there's news today, Tom, that we're looking to give him a new contract. We've gone from maybe not wanting him, but did we ever not want him? I never thought he'd ever kick a ball for Arsenal ever again. Clearly I was wrong. Now we're offering him a new contract. This was stuff that came out when he first signed, like this was going to be the dream partnership, Gabriel and Saliba. And Ben White maybe will have something to say about this. Premier League news here doing the old shush. What's your take on him, this whole situation? You talked a little bit about, who can play on the right, the hybrid situation. It's not a given that he's just going to come and be part of the team, but now we're already talking about giving him a new contract. What's that about?
Well, we should be. He's got 2 years left. We need to protect that asset. If I was Saliba, again, taking my Arsenal hat off, I wouldn't sign the new deal. I'd be sitting there and going, I'll stay here this season and I'll see what happens. I'll see if I'm given that opportunity. I'm seeing if I'm be given those minutes. That's speaking, without obviously being an Arsenal fan or trying to. But Arsenal should be trying to do everything they can to get this guy a new contract with. But a shadow of a doubt, he's one of the most exciting young centre backs in the world. And whoever, I think it was Francis Kajigao actually who deserves the credit. He was our former head of recruitment or head of scouting. That was one of the main guys behind it. He was working with obviously the club, but they'd looked at him for a long, long time, and they got him in 2019 after obviously Arsene Wenger had left, where Unai Emery was still there at that point, and knew that they'd have to send him back to Saint Etienne if they wanted to get the deal done. That was absolutely part of getting that deal, was they had to send him back. And then the worst thing happened, in that season, because it was the pandemic year. It hit Saint Etienne, it hit Liga. It meant that the Liga finished early. He suffered with injuries during that season, comes back. Arteta's now the manager, takes one look at him, which I'm a little bit critical of. I don't think he gave him enough of a chance. There was also a bit of a situation with the French Cup final that he reacted quite badly to being told that he couldn't go. And I don't think the club liked that. And I think the club certainly wanted to kind of muscle it a bit, like, this is Arsenal. You're not always going to get what you want, and there are consequences if you react in certain ways. And I think there was a little bit about that then. The mistake that the club made was that at the end of 2020, they didn't register him. They didn't register him as a Premier League player. They didn't register him as a Europa League player. And Arteta has come out on record and admitted that they should have done, that they should have, and they made a mistake. And I think that Arteta has always rated the guy, always thought that there was something there, but just that he wasn't yet ready for the club and for the Premier League and for what he was looking for. And people go, we had Holding, we had Mustafi, we had Socrates. How can you not give Saliba a chance, And the reason is because, one, it's Arsenal, and anyone at Arsenal gets criticised, overly criticised all the time on the outside. You make one error and you're set upon. And for an 18, 19-year-old centre-back, not from this country, coming in, it's that situation to be protected from, I think, was the right move. I think that obviously if he was going to stay, we should have registered him, as I've mentioned. But then we've sent him on 2 really good loan moves to Nice and Marseille. He's come on leaps and bounds, played every single week, which he wouldn't have done at Arsenal, and become a player that can now get into the French national sides. Yes, it's been a little bit easier because there's been other players like Konate that's not necessarily been available at all times, but still he's earned that spot in the French team. So he comes back. I'm sorry, Marcus. He comes back, and Arteta says, he must come back. He wants to come back. The problem with Saliba and the problem with the Arteta dynamic in the fan base is that because of the situation with Saliba, he became the perfect baseball bat to bash Arteta with. And I think there are rightful criticisms of Arteta and the club in how they've handled Saliba. But the problem is that Saliba suddenly became like a Guendouzi 2.0 for Arteta. And how can you not use Saliba? And if you support Arteta, you must be against Saliba. And, look what he's doing for the French team. Thankfully, this last 2-3 weeks of where Arteta first came out and said he must come back, and then Saliba's come out and saying, I'm an Arsenal player, has completely embarrassed that side of things. Really genuinely, in my view, has embarrassed people who took it too far and just used Saliba as a weapon in the whole Arteta in-out debate.
Me?
No, I don't think you'd use it as a weapon at all.
No, I'm joking, because I did say, I'm like, he'll never kick a ball for Arsenal. I'm my hands up.
And I think it was absolutely fair to think that at times. But I think to use Saliba as a weapon in the Arteta out debate,
I get that part.
Would have been, it didn't make any sense because we didn't have the full picture. Now we have a lot more of the full picture, and we can clearly see that, there is that investment, there is that care from the club. He wouldn't want to come back to Arsenal and try. He wouldn't want to be not offering, but, he wouldn't be willing to be open to the idea of coming back to Arsenal if he was treated like a lot of people thought he was being treated. So I think,
and he has the opportunity to play Champions League football next season if he wanted to stay at Marseille and push for that deal to happen. But you've said, and Kev says, he's still an Arsenal player, and that a deal, is is done, and there might be a little bit of chip on shoulder stuff with him, which I think is actually a good thing.
Saliba's coming.
Vinny and Vesper are arguing over Saliba. They're having one of those. It's a good thing. We need competition in this squad. We've always argued, let's have more players with chips on their shoulder. Let's have more players who feel like they've been, rightly wronged or wrongly righted. I mean, I love it. I love the fact that you've got ESR last season and Martinelli. There was a bit of a battle. Who starts? Who sits? Let's get that going in midfield. Let's create that a little bit more at the back. Let's get Tierney, if he's going to be injury prone, let's find a solution. Send Nuno on loan. Matt Turner, when I spoke to him and he's not coming to just sit on his hands. He's coming to, I say this loosely, but you guys take it as you wish. He's not coming to just be a spectator. He's coming to ball and play. Yeah. And that's what you want. This is what we've dreamed of having in this Arsenal team for a long time now, Tom.
Yeah, he's a quality player. He's got quality potential in him, and I want to see it at Arsenal. I really, really do. I really do. I hope that he gets chances next year.
Okay, so let's get this real quick fire questions, right? Because I've saved some, and then we're going to get to the fun stuff real quick from McKenny. Do you think that Saka watches some of these podcasts talking about him leaving? I don't think so.
Yeah, probably. The players do watch stuff. The players absolutely watch stuff. I have no doubt in my mind.
Every morning at 8 o'clock.
There's nothing else on at 8 a.m., so I might do. But no, I have no doubt in my mind that they've watched your show, my show, other people's shows. I have no doubt, because from speaking to players, doing interviews like players in the MLS or players in Portugal that we've done a couple of times when I was at 101, and speaking to them, they watch stuff. They watch stuff all the time. It's just part of modern life, for footballers. Is they Google themselves, they YouTube themselves, and videos will come up. And it's human nature that if you see a video, a commentary video like we do all the time, talking about you as a player, you're going to want to watch that. So yeah, they absolutely do watch stuff, 100%.
Okay. Lynn says, Hazard set the bar high now. You just did an article on him. I don't know if has he set? I don't think so.
Yeah. So Edu hasn't set the bar high with what he's done, other than obviously spending a lot of money in 2021. But no, it wasn't. Obviously, we know that money was spread across 6 savvier pieces of business, not like transformative pieces of business. How he set the bar high is because he rather stupidly went on ESPN Brazil and turned around and said, we have a plan, and we're now going to work to put that plan into action. It's not stupid. It's stupid if you don't do it. It becomes stupid if you don't do that plan. But telling the fan base, the most on it fan base in the world, that you have a plan for a transfer window, if you don't go and achieve what clearly we all know what that plan is in Jesus, Tielemans, and a couple of others, and maybe 2, hopefully 3 others, you are going to get the rightful criticism that you deserve for saying it. So yeah, it may come back to bite him. We'll have to wait and see.
All right, real quick one here from King Salt for you. Are White and Odegaard, the pronunciation, so underrated by Arsenal fans and media? Why are they?
I don't think Odegaard is. I think on the whole, Odegaard is a very appreciated player now at Arsenal. I think he may have been in that loan spell that we had him, because he didn't really show what he was really capable of in that loan spell. But yeah, I think no on Odegaard. I think there is still people out there publicly that criticise him, of course. But I think on the whole, he is one of the most appreciated players in the Arsenal team now. Ben White, on the other hand, is an incredibly underrated player. And he's fallen foul of the Saliba curse, really, because, he was signed and 50 million quid, and arguably we could have saved ourselves 50 million quid as an argument, spent it on, a midfielder or a striker or whatever, and brought Saliba in earlier. That's always going to be an argument until Ben White really has a really, really consistent, strong, world-class level season. You're going to find it difficult to disprove that theory. If, of course, Saliba comes in and falls apart, then maybe that does it. But I don't want to see that happen. I want to see both Ben White and I want to see Saliba succeed. But Ben White is so underrated. He's just not fashionable. English players don't tend to be fashionable.
No.
If we'd signed Whitinho for 50 million pounds from Brazil, maybe it would have been different. But yeah, it's just unfashionable.
We can be very snobby, for sure.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. It's kind of like see filed under. No, I don't want Johnny Evans. No, I don't want X, Y, or Z.
Do you remember the dragon meme that came out last summer? It was like the three really angry dragons, serious dragons, and then the clown dragon that was white. There was like Varane, Koundé, and there was one other one as well. I think it might have been Romero at Spurs. But I think White's been better than definitely better than Varane last season. Romero was very good when he played for Spurs, but I think White's kept up to pace with Romero pretty simply. Oh yeah, way better than Maguire. Like he should be starting in that England. I know he's not fit right now, but he should be starting in that England side over the other options without a shadow of a doubt. He was the best English centre back last season, easily.
And England all of a sudden have a bit of an issue at the back, which they didn't really. I think their woes are more at the back now than in midfield and up front. Okay, Terence has a couple of questions, and I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen too much of them. So his first question, real quick, if you can answer, Adik, and then again pronunciation, Elaf or Elaf. Do you know much about these players? Is he barking up the wrong tree?
You've not fallen for that, have you? Come on. When I do a show about transfer targets, I get asked about them all the time. You've got to know I'm... No.
Okay, I tried. I really tried, Terence.
Right. You got to get up pretty darn early to get me. Because I do.
There you go. Oh, God. So funny. I tried, Terence. I tried. Okay. Here we go. Let's have some fun, right? So let's get away from the football just a little bit, because you are a human being. And I said to everyone, as part of the summer series, I want to do this pop culture stuff and have a little bit of fun so they can get to know their YouTube hosts, broadcasters, writers, presenters in a little bit more of an intimate fashion. So here we go. Tom Canton, let's find out a little bit more about you and what you do in your spare time. Favorite film?
Oh, see, this becomes Tom Canton embarrasses himself on YouTube. My favorite film is Hitch.
You bling out the Will Smith after all that?
Yeah, when you said it, like when you sent me the things about doing it, I was like, I'm gonna have to say my favorite film's a Will Smith film now. It's like the worst timing.
Well, Eva Mendes is definitely worth the hour and 45 minutes.
My favorite film. I can't help it. I just love that. I've watched that film over and over and over. Honestly, mainly because I've been with my other half. It'll be 10 years in November, and when I got given that film, and I was a teenager, like I learned so much, and it clearly worked. So yeah. Great film.
Wow. Okay.
The music, everything about it is so good. So good.
I'm a little bit surprised.
There's a funny story with the wedding, actually. There's the end of that film, there's a wedding, which is Kevin James and I can't remember the actress's name. I should do it for my favorite film, but she's an American model, I think. And the song of that wedding, we wanted actually for the song for our wedding as we walk out after we've got married. But actually, when you look at the lyrics, they are the dirtiest lyrics that you've ever, when you actually look into them, you just like the song, but then you realize that they are awful.
That is hilarious. It's Amber Valletta, I think is her name. Yeah. Okay, your favorite TV show? Come on, you can up the grades now. This is your reputation right now.
Again. Favorite TV show is something going on right now. I don't know if many people watch it. It's American. It's called The Rookie. It's Nathan Fillion. Who a lot of people know. Do you know this?
Wait, Nathan Fillion
from Firefly.
Yeah, I worked on that TV show when I was at Fox. One season wonder.
So he's it's in its third or fourth series now.
He's a very nice fella.
I love it. It's so good. It's like the most over the top Americanization of what being a rookie in the LAPD is about. It's great. I love it.
Wow. Okay, fantastic. Favorite actors?
This is what I told you. This is me embarrassing myself for half an hour now. This is what this is. Unreal.
Well, Newman, when you're as old as I am and you've been in the we'll get to that, King Saul. Okay, go on. Your favorite actors? Will Smith.
Yeah, it was. It was. It was before he completely embarrassed himself. No, one of my favorite TV series is a show called Life on Mars, which was on the BBC a fair few years ago, and John Sim in that is just so good. So yeah, John Sim is definitely up there as one of my favorite actors. Yeah, just love his stuff. He does a new show on ITV. It's a drama detective series called Grace, and he's very good in that as well.
Very nice.
John
Very
Sim.
nice. Okay, very cool. John Sim. Favorite band?
Foals. Do you know who they are?
No.
Really?
I think I've heard of them.
Yeah, you can probably see that's
James
Foals,
Johnston was really excited to know
Foals
the answer to this question. A lot of people are like, I wonder what kind of music Tom likes listening to. This is great.
To be honest, Foals aren't my favorite genre, but they are my favorite band. So
Okay.
yeah. But we'll get that to
All
that
right.
with the next one.
So best concert you've ever been to?
Yeah, best concert I've been to is there's a drum and bass artist called Sub Focus. A lot of people probably know who Sub Focus is from some of his songs. He does a song called Tidal Wave that a lot of people will know. Into the Blue, people will know, and a more recent one called Desire that people will know. And it was at Printworks in Canada Water. So Printworks, if you've never been there, you need to go. It is one of the best night out venues in London without a shadow of a doubt. It's like this old Printworks factory, and it's like it's a giant corridor that goes down. So it's not like an open thing like usual concerts are. It's a giant long corridor, and they just light it up all down the corridor with like triangular lights and ones that move. And yeah, this Sub Focus concert, he's known from like his background of his albums being like this giant circle. And so I'll send you some videos after this.
That's
and it was
amazing.
basically they like held
Is
up
it like
this
an
giant
installation
circle.
or something? It sounds like an installation.
Yeah, kind of like that. And he just lit up this giant circle and it moved about the whole thing. And they made it like ridiculous. I'll send you videos later, but it's
fantastic.
It's crazy. So good.
All right, awesome. Okay, your favorite city in the whole wide world?
Nottingham, which sounds crazy, but yeah. Nottingham is my favorite city.
Mind blown, everyone. Mr. Tom Canton, your 8 a.m. Arsenal transfer show guru right here. Favorite city in the whole world.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us why.
I went to uni there for 3 years, and it was just genuinely the best 3 years of my life. Like, it's so good, so good. I ended up getting a Desmond Tutu in the end because I just milked that city dry. Absolutely milked it dry.
That is so epic.
If I'd have tried hard, I could have got better. Don't take it. I know I used to be a techer and everything, and I shouldn't be saying this, but yeah, honestly. To be fair, I've not been to many places. You know, I've not traveled the world. I've been to New York. I've been to Barcelona and Lisbon and places like this. But Lisbon's way too hilly. Like it's ridiculously hilly. You come back with massive calves after you've been to Lisbon. New York is like a love-hate city. Like I love so much about it, but I hate so much about it as well. And Barcelona is. I had stuff stolen when I went there, so I never had that attachment with Barca. But yeah, no, and Nottingham, I just loved it. Absolutely
amazing.
Loved it.
So I can assume, and my mother always taught me never to assume, but I'm going to right now. You will be going to Arsenal Forest away then, because you love Nottingham so much.
I've been twice, and we've lost twice. So I didn't actually go to the one that we lost this season. I wasn't able to go, but I went to the two. Before that, and we lost both of them. So
amazing. Okay, what's your favorite drink?
So in Nottingham, there is a cocktail bar called Coco Tang, and they do this lemon tart cocktail, and it's unreal. Like you drink it, and it's like you think you're drinking a lemon tart. It's ridiculous, and I just love it. I had to leave a club night out once because I had 6 of them, and I gave myself the most crippling stomach pain for all the citrus that you've ever. Honestly, unreal, so good.
Oh, this is so epic. I should have just spent the hour on this. Brilliant stuff. Okay, what's your favorite swag?
All Saints is my go-to, which makes me sound so poncy. But I just,
it's such good gear though.
Yeah,
It's a bit
it's all
overly
neutral
priced,
colours.
isn't it? It's
So,
very overly
oh yeah,
priced.
it's definitely overly priced. I usually go when there's a sale on and stuff. As soon as I get an email through saying we got a sale on, I'm like, okay, I'm straight on it, straight in there. But no, it's all neutral, and people know from the channel I just wear dark colours all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, all Saints.
We Greeks, we like wearing black a lot too. You know,
Mhm.
that's the go-to color. All right, so a game you've never ever been to that you wish you could have been at. Doesn't matter what era, what decade. What's the game?
Yeah, this isn't as surprising as all the other answers because it's an obvious one for me that it is 89 because, you know, I was born in 94, never experienced it. I've watched the documentary a billion times over and over and over again. And yeah, it's just one of those games that I would have loved to have been there to experience. There's nothing like a last minute goal. And yeah, it would have been amazing to, it's a rite of passage for Arsenal fans to learn about stuff like that. So to have been there, if you have been there, you know, it must be amazing to say that you've been there. So yeah. Absolutely, 89.
Every time I went to Anfield, we always lost. So I'm happy I wasn't there that night, to be honest with you, because I probably would have put the block on that one. A lot of people are sending me a note asking they want to know your favorite food, which isn't on my list, but I will add it to the list. What's your favorite food?
Pasta. I'm Italian food all over. Yeah, pizza, pasta, but pasta mainly because I'd make it fairly regularly. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. Before we get to the if you owned Arsenal question, the Guilty Pleasure TV show, what was the answer to that, by the way?
Well, right now it's, and people guessed it in the chat, right now it is Love Island. Like, I can't lie. I'm just so good, so full of drama. I love it. And because I love drama and stuff like that, my Guilty Pleasure is Made in Chelsea. So just, yeah.
I love it. Do you know what?
It's great.
You just need to switch off, you know, you really do. Yeah. I'm obsessed with the Below Deck franchise. So yeah. All right. Tom Canton. I think there are a lot of Arsenal fans out there that wish you owned Arsenal Football Club. What did he say? I'm blocking Tom. The Guilty Pleasure is always going to get people like shook. You know what I mean? Yeah. It just is the one that always, really, Tom, you're so smart. You're so intelligent. Love Island. We all need to switch off. For sure. I'm not going to mention my other. I'd get killed. The Bachelor. Sorry? Did someone say that out loud? Right. If you owned Arsenal, who would your manager be? Who would you love to be captain? And I did actually ask you what would your starting 11 look like. But
yeah, you said with a Liverpool budget. I should have asked some more questions around that because I took that as kind of, you know, what would my 11 be like right now if we had Liverpool's kind of budget and their ambition. So I've only changed a few players from the first 11. Of right now. So I'll do the 11 first because it's easier. Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel, Tierney stays the same. I love that back five. I can't wait to see if Saliba can break into it. Partey still as the number 6. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic as the left central midfielder from Lazio. Would love to see him signed by Arsenal. Amazing player. Odegaard stays on that right centre mid slot. Saka. Gabriel Jesus on the left and Patrick Schick as the striker, obviously. So, yeah.
Very nice. And who's the captain of this team?
So I would probably have selected Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. So, yeah, Milinkovic-Savic.
Okay. Captain and your manager? Any manager that you want?
This was really hard because picking a manager that suits that team is always like, you think, oh, yeah, obviously want to pick Klopp or, you know, Pep, and I'm thinking, would they work? I think Pep would work. So I did end up going for Pep. But I was tempted to say, you know, someone ridiculous like Del Bosque if he was still in his prime, something like that, you know.
Wow,
but yeah,
what a manager.
Pep Guardiola, yeah.
Amazing. Brilliant stuff.
No, not amazing at all.
No, I killed you at the end there. I think the 11's really interesting, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, especially the midfield. I love that you don't have Xhaka in there. You know,
Milinkovic-Savic is better.
He's so much better. Not a player that's up for sale though, is he? I don't. You know, is that a?
I mean, Lazio have always said if they get the figure they want, they'll sell. But no one's been willing to pay the 60, 70 odd million quid that they want for him. So,
yeah. Taib saying he'd have Lippi or Trapattoni also. I'd have Jupp Heynckes as my manager.
I didn't know that you could have a previous one. I would have, yeah.
Oh,
because Arsene Wenger in his prime all day long.
Tom, you've been absolute gold. He makes it easy, SJ, I have to say. Pump those likes, people, definitely. How much fun have we had? We've talked Arsenal, we've talked transfers, pop culture, guilty pleasures, and even a little bit of favorite foods. Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure. Let everyone know where they can find your amazing work.
Thanks, Oph. Yeah, you can find me at the Gooner Talk TV on Twitter, or just the Gooner Talk. You can find me every morning at 8 a.m. Other than Sundays, I try and now take Sunday off. So, yeah, but other than that, 8 a.m. Yeah, that's where you find me.
And a big summer for you coming up. Massive summer.
Yeah, I'm getting married in August as well, which is going to be great. Believe it or not, Mike's going to be there. That's,
any excuse to go to London. Honestly, I hope that there's security.
Yeah, there's a fair few of us. I knew that Simeon and Potsy and Miami John's coming over. Drew is coming over. Drew Thompson, and people know from my channel as well, will be there. So it's going to be a great day. I'm looking forward to it.
If I hadn't have come over in May and April, I definitely would have been there. Would have been there for sure. But we're definitely going to be doing another live event next season. In 1 week, the schedule comes out, so we can start planning the extravaganza for next season, Tom. That's for sure. Thank you, as always, for spending your free time with us. Listen, kids, how about that? It's been an amazing week here at Highbury Squad Central. Our interview with Tigers film writer is not happening tomorrow. We've had to reschedule that for next Wednesday because of a scheduling conflict. So I will let you know on the community page and on the Twitter page a little bit more about that. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and thank you again, Tom. And until then, squaddies, at ease.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.